Well, I got triggered today. Yes, the coach does get triggered. In fact, every human being on the face of the earth does. The real game, I believe, is to not let our triggers run us for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year, instead just for a few moments or minutes. So what did I get triggered by today? Well, I don't know what it is about having a baby, but from the 4 months that my amazing son has been alive, there has been 4 different occasions where someone I barely know or someone who is a flight attendant or a service person has touched my baby's face. And that happened today, and I was so triggered by it. I was so triggered by it. We just went through all kinds of different health things around the world. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, some people just think it's okay to touch a baby's face that you aren't related to or don't really know, even related to. And so I was at this market today, and this guy that I, kind of know, don't really know that well at all, saw my amazingly cute baby's face. And let's be honest, my son is adorable. He is amazing. And this person just did the little thing, right? Oh, he's so cute, right? And I wanted to say, sorry, happy for you to admire my baby or say you like him, but please don't touch him. And I didn't. And I actually felt so terrible about it. I was, 1, triggered because of what happened, but 2, I felt like in that moment, I chose that person's discomfort over my baby's health and safety, right? I think about, okay, why, what does this matter? What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about boundaries. Another thing we're talking about is health. I don't know if that guy just picked his nose or scratched his balls or whoever's hand he just touched or wiped his butt when he pooped. I'm sorry to be disgusting here, but I don't know. And then he touched my baby's face, who then licks his own face. It just goes on and on. And so that happened. And I felt so terrible because I wanted to say something, but for some reason this thought came over my head oh, don't make him uncomfortable. And this is the kind of thing that I think we all deal with in relationships is I want to set a boundary, I want to say something, but I'm worried that if I say that, someone else is going to be uncomfortable, so I don't do it. And you can see the huge problem in that. Here's the most obvious problem is with my son being touched and health concerns, all these kinds of stuff, but also just the boundaries, I would say even around kids, right? There's kind of this perspective that a lot of people can have that we're almost entitled to hug a kid or touch a kid without letting the kid have a choice in the matter. And so, even someone just commented, especially post-COVID, right? It seems like such an obvious thing to not do. But to me, I would never reach my hand out to touch anyone's baby without asking permission first. And this is the 4th time it happened, and I was just me and my wife were talking about, it's we got to protect our son. He's the most important thing ever. Even if that means we sound rude or we piss someone off. Someone's commenting. It's kids aren't like people. They have their own domain. They have their own experience. And, think about your cousins or nieces and nephews. How many times it's almost expected for them to hug us, or we're allowed to just kiss them or do whatever we want. And we don't really check in on what their boundaries are. And I just was really fascinated. I really got an interesting conversation with my wife about it. Just we really want to teach our kid that no one is owed physical touch by you. Even if it's your grandmother or me, it's we aren't, you don't have to appease us because of our discomfort. And I think this is just a human challenge that so many of us have grown up with because we haven't, learned or practiced setting boundaries and being okay with the other person's discomfort. And so me and my wife, we promised today, we were if anybody tries to reach out their hand to our baby, we're going to put our hand up, get it in the way, or say, hey, no, sorry, thank you so much for wanting to touch your baby. We get it. He's so cute. And, for us, it's just about health and safety. our baby's licking everything. Yeah, and someone just commented. It could be cultural as well. Like, we don't know other people's experiences. And to be honest, the person who did that, I'm sure he didn't mean any harm. He's a good dude. It's just like reaction that moment. I think the most obvious one where I was so surprised is when me and my wife were at an airport like 4 weeks ago, and it was a flight attendant. And I was like, we don't know this. We met this person like 5 seconds ago. And I was like, oh my God, they just touched our kid. Like, are they touching bags? All these kinds of things. So anyways, I just wanted to bring up this topic. For any of you who think you're entitled to touch a newborn baby, you're not. And also just for us to be like more self-aware about our boundaries might not be the same as anybody else's. Like, you've all probably been around someone who's, very touchy-feely, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with someone who's affectionate. But sometimes if you're a really affectionate person, we can assume that everybody else is also affectionate, and they might not be, right? It might be like really uncomfortable and actually not okay for them, maybe even traumatizing to touch them in that way. And so I think what I'm seeing as a reminder that I want to share on this live with you guys and, with anyone who's listening is, just because my perspective is one way doesn't mean everybody else's perspective is automatically the same. And I want to encourage people and challenge people to make actual requests. This is a bigger topic in relationship. Most of us are scared to make requests, myself included in that moment, by the way, because we're scared to hear someone else's discomfort or even the word no. Like asking to hang out with someone, asking to see someone, sharing with someone that we miss them and we'd like to see them. Would you be open to that? Often we don't actually ask the question, would you be open to that? Instead, we jump to the assumption because the assumption feels safer. I'm not going to be rejected if I nudge or assume you in a direction. And so I think what I'd like to encourage and start the conversation around more of is actually creating permission. Would you be open to? I look at me and my wife and the many breakthroughs we've had in our relationship. A huge part of those breakthroughs is not assuming that the other person should just have to do something about me feeling bad. So I'll take you to a moment where my wife and I have been in conflict, and maybe the conversation's going down a challenging route. Maybe we're tempted to poke at each other and stuff like that. And so her old reflex, so I always say she's a recovering avoidant attacher, I'm a recovering anxious attacher, because we both can go there. We're secure now, but we both can go there. And so when she's gone into her avoidance state and I've gone to my anxious state, what it looks like as a win for us is to be able to go, for me, hey honey, I notice I'm getting anxious and worried and I'm wanting to control you right now. I don't actually want to do that. I want us to have a new conversation. Would you be open to that? Actually asking the question, would you be open to that? Or would you be open to talking about this later? I know you're stressed right now and you feel like a lot's going on. Would it be okay with you if we talked about this tomorrow morning? Like actually asking the question. Instead, what you'll see, you probably just look on your own life, what we'll do instead is we'll just assume the person should just deal with this. And I tell you guys, the amount of problems that creates, the assumptions of our partner, our friend, our mom, they should just know is so brutal. And that's why I'm having this conversation with you right now. I just assumed people should not touch my kid. To me, I thought that was just like super obvious. Apparently it's not. And so it's like, okay, I could blame these people and get really mad at them. I don't think that's going to be effective. Or I could look at where I can be responsible, and what I see I can be responsible for is actually interrupting that with people. And there's two ways I see it. I can actually put my hand in front of their hand if they go to touch my baby's face, or I can actually say, sorry, excuse me, please don't touch him. We're so grateful of your interest in our beautiful son, and it's just not okay to be able to share germs, bacteria, whatever it might be that's passing around. And so it's like I see people on my side, obviously, in this chat. I really appreciate that. It seems obvious to you, and it seems obvious to me too. But that to me is one of those dangers, in relationships or even society, is those things that we think are obvious. because there's always going to be somebody else that has a different opinion. And so I look at it, there's two sides. I could blame them for their situation, or I can look at where I can influence the thing. And me sharing this with you guys now is part of that. So thank you guys for listening. I hope that was valuable to you in some way, and at least educated you on hesitating the next time you automatically go to touch someone that didn't think it was okay, or more specifically a baby who cannot defend himself. So thank you very much for listening, and feel free to ask any questions. I'll stay on for another 5 minutes or so if you guys have some questions around relationship coaching, relationships, and that'll be it. I'm just going to read the comments here. You like these observations? It was valuable. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I wanted to go on live and talk about this. I was talking to my wife about it like 10 minutes ago. I was just like, I feel like we should talk about this, because maybe a bunch of people are just assuming, not talking about it. So, yeah, if you have any questions about relationships, something you're going through, challenge, happy to stay on for a few minutes here. I'm just scrolling through right now. Yeah, I know, it seems like it should be common sense. But there's a lot of, maybe sense isn't that common. A lot of us need to be told things, I guess, or go through certain situations. The cat is also on my side, yeah. That cat's name is Mommy, in case anybody was wondering, because we found her when she was pregnant. Culturally, in South Asia, it becomes really difficult to tell big families. They do it all the time. Interesting. Thank you for that perspective. Yeah, right? Like, my wife told me another situation with her grandmother years ago, where she would kiss her, but she would almost drool, she almost open-lipped kissed her, and she would hate it. And then she'd go to her mom and say, "Mom, please don't tell her to kiss me. Tell her not to kiss me." And then her mom wouldn't do it, probably for the same reasons that I didn't do it today. It's like, I don't want to make that person uncomfortable. It's like, okay, maybe they're not uncomfortable anymore, but your kid is. It's like, who's more important? So I see questions coming in, so I'll go ahead and look to those. Why do I love bomb without wanting to? Okay, so really, I love this question. So I used to love bomb a lot. It's often a symptom of anxious attachment. And so we love bomb in the hopes that it's going to trigger something in someone else that's going to have them like us and see that we're valuable. So if I'm love bombing you, then it means, I really like you. And if you feel really liked, then maybe you'll like me back, right? And so the love bombing thing can be such a dangerous one, because over time, the generosity, the words that are coming out of your mouth are going to be diluted, and they're not going to hold as much value. And so it's a protection mechanism. Rather than sitting in the discomfort or sitting in the uncertainty of your connection with someone, we jump to love bombing. Or we go really fast through the honeymoon phase and just dive in with people we don't really know. And so there's your why. The what, I think, is the more interesting question. What do I do about this? Well, you want to slow down. You want to catch yourself about to love bomb someone and see if you can pause. See if you just divert that road even a little bit. That's going to be a win. The challenge is it'll take you sitting in your discomfort of that. All right? So many of the feelings that we're scared to feel, by us letting us feel those things, that's going to really make the biggest difference in our security and us becoming more powerful in those feelings. But the challenge is it really does take courage. So that's why I really preach 1% wins, because they really build momentum over time. So if you could just hesitate the next time you find yourself love bombing, you're on your way. Someone says, a partner who thinks the minimum effort is their default, so doing more is too much. Yeah, well, I like this question around minimum effort, right? Because it also has an assumption baked in there. So what is minimum effort? Maybe to you, minimum effort is to someone else maximum effort or middle effort. It goes on. And so part of where I would invite you to look is, what specifically is the kind of effort you're looking for? So rather than it being categorized into maximum effort or minimum effort, what specifically is missing in the relationship for you? Is it a certain kind of physical touch? Is it a certain activity or action that you've been waiting for? I think people underestimate how much is necessary to teach our partner. I'll use the example of my wife and I. My love language is words of affirmation and physical touch. If you don't know about love languages, look them up. My wife's love language is acts of service. So we have different love languages. She had to teach me many, many times for me to even realize that that was the case. I didn't know that me going to the grocery store to pick up something that she needed was her way of feeling loved. I thought that was absurd. So what I was doing to make her feel loved was saying really nice things and kissing and hugging her. And she was going, why are you doing this when it feels like you don't care about me? And I'm like, I don't care about you. All I'm doing is saying how much I care about you. And then her thought is, well, if you really cared about me, you'd be doing these things for me. Right? I didn't realize that. And so I think we underestimate how much of like, we can just expect someone should just know stuff versus like, we're kind of training each other to be together. You know, we're in this dance together. It's like, oh, I stepped on your toes. Oh, I'm too far apart. And we learn to dance together. And you guys, you know, I've been with my wife now almost 5 years, and it is so cool, like what our relationship is now. I didn't know it would turn into this. This is better than I could have imagined. Because we had to go through things to learn from each other and like find our dance together, find our rhythm together. But I think so often people are just expecting to just have that and we just like perfectly fit. I totally disagree with that. Whoever you're going to be with, you're going to bump up against conflict and fear and past concerns and trauma. And in the face of all that, are you guys going to learn to be a team or are you going to learn to be enemies? And most people just learn to be enemies and either break up or just live together as enemies. You know, and so there's this part of like, I like to call it learning how to fight, that I think is just imperative to the development of a brand new kind of relationship. So thank you for that question. Next question. I met someone who's distant due to long and painful history of abuse. What can I do to help with that? Yeah, I get that. You're probably hoping that that person, you know, leans in a bit more and they're hesitant due to their past. So I would focus less on them leaning in and focus more on getting what it's like for them. So like get into their world. So when they allow your intimacy, when they put in some intimacy with you, I would really invite you to get curious about what kind of a step that is for them. So ask questions of like, you know, when I do this, what is it that's hard? What about that is hard for you? Or when you shared that vulnerable thing with me, what was that like for you? You know, get into their world. You know, what's it like when? And that's going to really create doors of trust. And if you have that trust, then that person's going to be able to lean in a little bit more. So notice it's kind of like, it's almost like a trick, but it's not a trick. We're not playing games with people, but it's like, often when we're trying to get somebody to do something, we actually cause distance in that thing. But when we stop trying to make certain things happen and we actually get curious, things start to work out for us. You know, to me, it's a whole different way of like attracting what we want, whether you believe in law of attraction or not. It's this kind of way of like having things work for you with new ease, rather than what so many of us are doing, which is like force. Like I'm gonna get this person to like me. I want to get this person more interested. I want to get this. It's like, great, let's have you get all that. But you forcing it, I promise you, is not going to be the way. It's going to be brutal to go that way. So I invite a strong level of curiosity. Someone says, I see you are fresh parents and you still feel overwhelmed by this bliss and happy that the other people feel this joy of newborn by touching. Sorry, I don't know if there's a question there. I see you are fresh parents and still feel overwhelmed by this bliss. Well, I mean, yeah, so we have a 4-month-old. It's going to be 5 months in a week and a half. Oh my God. We had a milestone today. He turned over on his own. That was pretty amazing. We have milestones every week. It's crazy. You guys, being a parent, whether you're a parent or not, I fucking love it. Like, I hesitate talking about parenthood so much because I don't want people to feel like they should be parents. But I also don't want people to lie to themselves thinking it's not important. You know, don't get it twisted. Every single one of us is alive because we were born. Someone had a kid. And I think it's a strange idea to like not want to have kids. I think it's a really weird idea. I don't think it's almost like human to not want to have kids. It's strange. I think some level we all want to, but we have fears and concerns, and those can get in the way. And I'm looking to shift people's perspective on having children and looking at it not like this hard, brutal thing. Like, yeah, it takes effort, but so does being live with you guys and your job and being healthy, and like everything takes some form of effort. But it also, to me, creates the greatest level of fulfillment that can exist. And it's like, that is extraordinary to be able to be involved in. Like, seeing my boy smile is insane. Like, it's actually crazy. And it makes me like more happy than anything I'll ever do. Like, even though I'm the most famous coach in the world who's coached the most amount of people into some successful relationship, that's still better than that. Because it's my flesh and blood. This is my boy. I get to be a part of his development from the beginning. Like, it's extraordinary, you know? And my wife and I, we're on a mission to change what people believe is possible with having kids. So we plan on traveling the world with our children, and we plan on having more kids. And our intention is, like, all these people who say you can't travel the world and you're too busy. It's like, fuck that. Who says? You know, our son probably by the end of next year will have gone to 5 countries or 4 different countries. It's like, why not? It's going to take managing. It takes managing for sure. But this whole like your life's over when you have kids, fuck that. That's just someone who's telling you that their life's over because they had kids. But don't let someone else's limiting beliefs build your future. You know, I always say, you know, go find people who are doing what you want to do and listen to them. But don't listen to people who don't have what you want. They're going to project their own fears onto you. You know, so we're very excited about all those limiting beliefs that we're going to destroy. Like, people ask us, are we tired? We get great sleep. We got a great system. We got a great support network. You know, just it works. So it can be really, really good. Another question here. I did try to have conversations with my boyfriend, but he has avoiding personality. That gives me a lot of sadness and anxiety, so I end the relationship. I don't hear a question there, but I get it. Sounds like the avoidant anxious trap. Really common for people, the avoidant anxious trap. You know, your anxiety is triggered by their avoidance is triggered by your anxiety. As you pull apart, you also swing back together. It's a very challenging situation. Until one of you or both of you become secure, it becomes a really brutal relationship to be in. So, next one here. You know, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will talk about it because I see Free Palestine and Gaza and stuff popping up here, even though it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Let me just point out something. I want to do a different live on this, but I'll do something now real quick with you guys. So I intentionally do not share about world events on my Instagram. I have a bit of an opinion about that. Whether you agree or disagree, it's all good. But I notice, and this is something I really don't like, is like right now we are in a trend of talking about Palestine and Israel. And it wasn't too long ago that we were in a trend of talking about Russia and Ukraine. It wasn't too long ago before that we were talking about COVID or koala bears in Australia during the fires. And what I notice is so much of it is just trending without actually making a difference. And I hate that. And I'm a strong proponent of, if you want to change the world, start in your kitchen. You know, I think we get almost a false sense of pride when we speak about things that we're so distant from, as if we're changing the game, versus, you know, people who want to save this or save that, but they haven't talked to their mom in 5 years, or they keep being rude to their spouse. Like, that's the real problem. Okay, start in your kitchen. There's problems going on all over the world. Right now, Palestine, Israel is the loudest. There are people dying in many other different countries. It doesn't make it worse or better. It just is what's happening. And I think this is the kind of the double-edged sword of social media. We have so much information bombarded all the time. And we're hurt. Like, I'm heartbroken when I see some of these images I've seen. It's brutal. I've never been to Palestine. I've never been to Israel. And I see what's going on. I mean, here's the other thing. What's actually going on? That's the other part. I'm seeing things. I'm seeing children being murdered in Palestine. But what else is going on? It's not to let it happen. It's not to condone what's happening. But my fear is in information. Like, how much different information are we getting? And am I getting the accurate information? And, how much is my algorithm, telling me what I'm supposed to look at? And it scares the shit out of me. So it's so hard to validate things. My wife's friend was living in Israel, and she messaged us a week after, or a couple of days after those people were shot at that music festival, and they got the hell out of there. They got on a plane, they got out of there. And, we know that actually happened. She's telling us. The rest, I so fear and have such a lack of trust with the news that, I don't know who's telling the truth. And that scares the shit out of me. So it also makes me kind of want to not share about certain things unless I really know. And so for all of you out there, taking a stand for what you're taking a stand for, you should do what you believe in. That's amazing. But also I recommend zooming in a little bit rather than zooming out to the scope of the world. Zoom into your family, zoom into your neighborhood. Before we start trying to figure out how to fix the whole world, you're probably going to need to start in your kitchen or in your school board, And I think a lot of us avoid going that micro level because we think it's not important, or it's actually just scarier because we actually could make a real difference in that. Oh, my cat's knocking over the camera. It's almost riskier for me to go around with my neighbors and create a garbage collecting or recycling community because too many people are putting away their waste. That's almost riskier than me screenshotting a picture and reposting on my stories that disappears in 24 hours. It kind of is almost the safer thing to do. And I'm not saying it's wrong if you do that. I'm just saying be careful if you're one of those people who is in this trend right now, and then a month from now, when this war is still going on, just like the war in Ukraine and Russia, by the way, which people aren't talking about anymore. When that war is still going on and we've moved on to the next topic of interest, just notice that. It's a really unhealthy and ineffective way to go about making change. That's what I believe. And I think it's hard because we want to make a difference. That's innate in humans. We want to make a difference. That's why if you ask, anybody what they want to do for a living, it all kind of boils down to I want to help people. Right? That's why I'm doing this for a living. I want to help people. And so we all want that, but sometimes we just don't know where to do it. We don't know how to channel that. And so this is my invitation for you to channel it in your kitchen. Channel it, keep standing for whatever you're standing for. Go for it. People are marching around the world. That's incredible. People are coming together. I believe that we are learning some incredible things about human nature, and we are going to come together and come out in a whole new kind of collective strength from this. And let's make sure we don't bypass our families. Let's make sure we don't bypass our neighborhood, on the way to changing the world. I think we'll have a more profound impact on, the teenager that you mentor in your neighborhood than you might on something that's across the world. That's my 2 cents. I didn't want to get into it really because I know it's so much and heavy, but that's my 2 cents on that, and I totally understand however you feel about it. I'm not here to argue with anybody about it. Everyone's opinions are welcome, and dialogue is valuable. So I got into some stuff. Anyways, we're all over the place now. Relationships, baby touching, wars. It's just a shit show of different dialogue. So I'll finish it up pretty shortly here. Someone asked a question: do you get over a loved one who is your significant other and loves you so much? Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. You can free yourself from that relationship. But yeah. So I saw your response to that question, Queen. Yeah, you said like action taking, like giving flowers. Maybe they're not sure how to show love. Yeah, things like that. Like they might not know. They might not really know. Oh, I'm just scrolling, you guys. Just want to see some of the comments here. Thank you so much for tuning in, for sharing. Thank you guys for your desire for development. That's how I see everyone that engages in my posts. Is there's someone who wants to better themselves, and that's fucking awesome. I don't take that lightly as being someone who can facilitate that, and I feel it is a massive privilege. And I just really acknowledge you all for being on the lookout for how you can make a difference. This is amazing, and it really is important. Like, what a good use of your time, right? Yeah, you're welcome. You're so welcome, you guys. Shout out to everyone here. Love and peace from Namibia. I love Namibia. Oh my gosh, me and my wife were talking about Namibia today. We visited Namibia in March, and we can't wait to go back. It's such a beautiful country. Hello to Namibia and around the world. Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for the messages, you guys. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for sharing and being open to development. And just you want to. Here's the thing, right? What are we talking about right now in this whole conversation? Whether it's about anxious and avoidant attachment, whether it's about war, whether it's about babies and boundaries, we're talking about love. That's what we're actually talking about, is love. So, regardless of what it actually looks like in life, to me, the whole intention of all of this work that I'm doing here, and that I think so many of us are crying for, is to be able to choose love over fear. All right, how do I actually choose love over fear when I'm scared, when I'm nervous, when I'm not sure how, when I don't know what to do? I think that is like the game that we're playing. And the challenge is when human beings are really scared, we get into our animalistic brains. And it's very easy to react and not respond, right? To get triggered. And this is where fights happen. This is where wars happen. I believe this can make a difference in the world, but it's got to start simple and small. It's got to actually be like almost back to basics. I think of so many of the things, like wars being started, like some of the stuff could be solved with a conversation. But if we got two egos going at it that have more fire than power than you can possibly imagine, well, that's not going to work well. Right? But if we can somehow get our egos out of the way and get vulnerable, then holy shit, we can do anything. So, you guys are awesome. I'm just scrolling here, looking at all the comments and checking in your beautiful people. So cool. Another topic as we close up here. Someone asked my son's name. I'm actually not going to share my son's name online. It's a weird position to be in where I have so many followers now that privacy is a huge value of mine. That's why you've never seen a picture of my son on my Instagram, and you won't, because I think privacy is like, it's almost like gone out of style, being private. I'm going to do another post on this because I did a comment about someone sharing, to me, just a lot of information about their breakup that I personally wouldn't share. And I think it's like a lost art to keep things to ourselves. I don't mean fears. I mean, like, even just good moments. There's a reason why I'm not filming my baby turn over for the first time today and sharing it on here, because it was for us. It was for me and my wife and us together to celebrate. And I caught myself, I've shared about this before, I caught myself a few times going out for dinner with my wife years ago, taking pictures and then excited to post it. But it wasn't for my wife and me. It was for looking good to other people. And I hated that feeling. It was like really grossed me out. It was like, what am I motivated by right now? It's like, I'm motivated by the opinions of people I've never met before. And in doing so, I'm not actually paying attention to my wife in this beautiful moment that we're having. That is not good for the human brain and heart. I don't believe it is at all. And so for me, it's like this privacy thing is really wonderful. It's really like, it's really cool to share a moment with someone and to not share it with everybody else. I think that's actually really special. So it's a weird double-edged sword also, because obviously I'm in relationship coaching. So I want to share to help inspire people of what is possible with love, while simultaneously keeping the love between my wife and my son and I, private. So it's a dance, and I believe that it'd be really great for us to keep some of those things sacred and share some of those things that we feel could make a difference. But it's a fine line. So anyway, you guys, you're so awesome, and just so much love. Sending you love with whatever you're dealing with, wherever you are in the world, and rooting for you in your personal development. Thank you guys for listening.